Hello and welcome to the Hospitality Solutions podcast from Hospitality Staffing Solutions, a KBS company. I'm James Krause. Join me as we explore the trends and strategies hospitality leaders like you are using to grow and thrive in this ever-changing industry. Hi, and welcome to the Hospitality Solutions podcast. I'm James Krause, and joining me again today is Tim Mcpherson, who is the president of Hospitality Staffing Solutions. Welcome, Tim.
Hi, James. How are you today?
Good. Tim, I know that something on the forefront of everyone's mind in hospitality is labor. And we wanted to do a little bit of a deeper dive into some of the labor issues using some of the statistics that HSS uses to talk to its clients about that issue. So why don't we just dive right into some of the data that we have here and start talking through it. Tim, the first slide really talks through the impact that the pandemic had on a lot of different industries. Can you talk a little bit about how that affected leisure and hospitality in particular?
Well, certainly we saw a number of industries that took significant hits early in the pandemic, and especially through second quarter of 2020. As you'll see in the trends, many industries started rebounding in the third quarter of 2020, and that process has continued back to nearly regaining all their employment base in key industry sectors, including some that were more pandemic or recession resistant, such as healthcare and other services like that. Certainly when we look at hospitality specifically, a lot different story has been told over time.
When we look at unemployment claims by week, can you walk us through what story this is telling?
I think when we look at the unemployment statistics overall, you can see in the chart that there's a pre-pandemic phase and then the dearth of the pandemic where unemployment reached all-time highs. What we see today and coming out of the third quarter of 2021, as we're nearing the endemic phase, is nearly back to the same employment levels and the same unemployment levels as we saw before the pandemic. While we do see differences in sectors of the workforce being still impacted, certainly we're almost back to that same situation, same unemployment rates, and same overall workforce in place. So certainly some different dynamics that we're looking at each and every day within the hospitality sector.
And so there's just not a lot of people sitting on the sidelines, basically, is what we're seeing here.
Oh, absolutely. You talk to our teams and you talk to our clients' recruiting teams, and everybody knows it's a fight every day to get candidates in the door. And when you do get someone in the door, you need to evaluate and move quickly on a hire, being that most new candidates coming into the market or fresh job seekers looking to change industries or improve their lot will certainly face multiple job offers very quickly. A quality employee is not sitting on the shelf very long. So really puts us in a position and our clients in a position that we need to move very quickly when we find qualified candidates looking for work in the hospitality industry.
Mm-hmm. Kind of related to that, this growth in wages that we've seen that's pretty well known. It's been about 10% for many hourly wages. What's it been like in hospitality?
Well, numbers in hospitality are nearly double what we see in other industries. When you look at blue-collar staffing or industrial staffing, certainly 10% labor rate increase over the past year, certainly a great impact to a number of different industries. Hospitality, and what we've seen from our internal statistics, shows nearly a 17% labor increase just since January of 2021. When you look at that percentage overall, and look at the trends in hospitality, was pre-pandemic was considered a very low wage industry to work within as an hourly employee. And we're really starting to see those hourly wages reaching more skilled or standard industrial type positions. So I think that plays into the increase that we see in hospitality, not only with the lack of employees or a lack of candidates coming in the door wanting to get into the hospitality field. Certainly the hospitality industry is making wages much more competitive with other industry sectors that may be slightly ahead of them in hourly wage averages.
just want to turn now and look at some of the hardest hit industry sectors. Obviously, healthcare, restaurant and bars, childcare. Can you talk a little bit about what we're seeing there in hotels and some of the labor changes, how that's affected the labor force?
I think we can clearly see from the data and the information pulled from the U.S. Department of Labor and other sources that there are a number of industries that were hit very quickly during the pandemic. Whether it's healthcare, whether it's childcare, or whether it was hotels, certainly you see a huge dip in employment early in the pandemic. And with hotels being the hardest hit, obviously hotels closed for almost a 2 to 3 month period. Occupancy was down to only essential workers and traveling nurses, and no leisure or business travel to any extent going on during that time. As you can see, over the past 18 months, it's been a very long slog to get back to where the hotel industry is now, while other industries like healthcare and restaurants have seen a quicker rebound in the number of employees overall. There's a couple of operational aspects to that that can't be ignored. The fact that hotels are operating with skeleton crews, cleaning is only happening at checkout instead of daily cleaning, with the exception of luxury sectors. So some of those things that are lingering impacts from COVID-19 pandemic are certainly things to keep an eye on as we go into 2022, being that there is some expectation of normalization of operations, which will certainly draw the hotel industry up closer to pre-pandemic levels for labor. When you look at what's going on in the labor force specifically, you can still see the impact was most dramatic in those without a bachelor's degree. And as you know, within the hotel sector specifically, probably 60 to 70% of the jobs do not require bachelor degrees. So you can see that clear correlation that there's still a major deficit of overall employment to those that don't hold a college degree, while those that have a bachelor's degree or higher are at full employment or even higher than they were pre-pandemic. I think the chart on the right, you can see the percentage change in labor force being more dramatically impacting women versus men in the overall labor force, and percentage change in that since February of 2020. You look at the further breakdown on the right-hand side of the slide, really shows that sector that works specifically and especially within the hotel sector, childcare, and healthcare are women, whether they're 25 to 54 years old or women 55 and above. That's the major gap in people that have not returned to the workforce, and are the industries that are running the slowest on the rebound with employment accounts are those that are going to be drawing from that population, or should be targeting that population as they strive to reach full employment levels next year.
And just looking at occupancy trends, I think occupancy rates are well known in the hotel industry. I think putting them together in a chart like this that HSS has done, it tells a wider story here. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I think what we see in the second half of this year is more of a normalization of the occupancy curve. While it still runs slightly below where the occupancy rates were in 2019, we can certainly see the trends of heavy travel for leisure in the summertime, slightly impacted in the recent months by less group travel and business travel than we saw before, but still reaching near the range. Certainly everybody's got their eyes on how does this look throughout the fourth quarter. The onset of international travel over the past week certainly gives optimism that there's still some pent-up leisure travel demands, not only domestically, but international travelers that want to come to the U.S. that may have been delaying visits for a long time by requirements due to COVID. So there's a lot of signs of what I would consider some normalization and some increasing optimism that as we turn into 2022, we should be back much closer to pre-pandemic occupancy rates at that time.
And let's just look at the TSA travel data here. How does HSS leverage this kind of information?
Well, I think it's critical as an advanced forecast. Obviously, people getting on planes, not all of them travel via plane or hit a TSA checkpoint to use a hotel, but it is a key indicator, and we've been tracking this for some time and see a direct correlation between TSA travel checkpoints and the overall hotel occupancy. So something we keep a close eye on. And again, with the onset or rebound of international travel picking up, should be very interesting to watch over the next 2 months and through the holiday period to see how much that number even tightens versus pre-pandemic numbers.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the big takeaways that hotel leaders can take, using this information?
I think one of the key aspects of the data that we've compiled, certainly we have a lot more data to share with specific clients or in one-on-one meetings, but I think one of the big takeaways is that the landscape of the hospitality industry really has changed in a significant way, not only due to requirements in the hotel, but also how you manage your staff. Certainly it's going to take hotel operators and management teams, whether it's food and beverage management, whether it's back of house management, really need to take a look at their utilization of talent, whether it's internal staff and full-time equivalents or contingent and contract labor, which certainly has proven to help hotels meet the up and down demand with the heavy weekend travel and not so much during the week with business travelers coming in. But, I think one of the complexities and something the industry needs to face is there's still not quite a normal operation mode is how do we make schedules attractive to candidates and then employees that will also meet the hotel operational demands. So I think that's one key thing hanging out in the landscape that a lot of people are looking at as a significant challenge. Obviously, there's a deficit of employees that have come back to hospitality. Obviously, the wages are back and ahead of where they were before. But I think that flexible scheduling aspect may be something that really moves the needle further as we move into 2022. Would be a little bit more focus on flexible scheduling to meet the demands of the employees.
There's also some innovation that's brought to the table, both in terms of training programs, technology programs. Any sort of sneak peeks into what might be ahead there?
Well, certainly we're seeing a little bit more use of automation. Cleaning robots are tending to pop up, kiosks for check-in, a lot more automation within the hotel, which certainly will cut down on a small number of jobs in the operations in the future. But, still see that at its infancy right now as to how much automation can be brought into the hospitality industry. Hospitality means people are being hospitable. And I do think that automation may prevent that, especially when, I wouldn't say it prevents it. It just makes it more difficult for a guest to experience the normal hospitality mode, a smiling face, a greeting, someone that makes you feel at home. A lot of those things are going to be standard. Whether it's before the pandemic, during, or after, there's a certain expectation at the guest level that I don't think automation can overall overcome. While there's certainly some certain aspects that could save hotel operators money, it's still about the experience to the guest, which is most important.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And any kind of training programs could open up the industry to maybe people who are new to hospitality overall, and this is their first foray into that career path.
Absolutely, and something we're looking at specifically, as you know, at HSS is how do we get people trained to go into hospitality for the first time. The hotels have done a great job of reopening, getting guests back in the door, but we still have this lag of employees that want to work in hospitality. And certainly we view training as a key aspect of that. How quickly can we train? What kind of tools can we provide in a web-based fashion to help train people up on various jobs in hospitality so candidates aren't walking in cold into the environment? Certainly our partner hotels and clients have detailed training programs, but at the same time, they're short on staff right now. So I think anything we can do as a provider to the industry to help facilitate additional training and get people up to speed faster once they get in the door is certainly going to make it a more hospitable environment for the employees and a better experience for hotel operators overall.
Right. Well, Tim, thanks very much for taking the time today to run through some of these numbers with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks, James.
Great. Thanks. This has been the Hospitality Solutions Podcast. I'm James Krause for HSS.